Motzi mirshus hektish benitilaso. Shekozman she birshus hagizbar harihi birshus hektish ad sheyotzi eno mirshus. So if you remember again, so Tosas explains as follows: the case in the Mishnah is dealing with a gizbar. Gizbar is the temple treasurer. So the halacha is that whenever something is in the domain of the temple treasurer, it is still considered as if it is in the domain of the Beis HaMikdash. So remember again, in order for Meilah to occur, an item has to be transferred out of the domain of the Beis HaMikdash into the domain of, we'll call it Chulin. So the Mishnah is teaching me over here that when a gizbar goes ahead and takes something from the Beis HaMikdash, amazingly enough, that's not Meilah, because the gizbar's hand is the hand of the Beis HaMikdash. So remember, under normal circumstances, if I, a regular guy, walk over to a piece of wood or to a stone belonging to the Beis HaMikdash and I lift it up, that in and of itself could be considered a Meilah under certain circumstances, because my act of lifting it up, by definition, results in a transfer of domain from the Beis HaMikdash to mundane, regular domain. On the flip side, the gizbar's hand is the Beis HaMikdash's hand, and as such, his lifting up of something does not automatically go ahead and transfer it to the domain of Chulin, top of Chaf. However, Nasna Lachavero, let's say if I go ahead and then, let's say I'm the gizbar, I then go ahead and give over this piece of wood or this stone to my friend, V'hu ma'al, right? Hu ma'al v'chaver lo ma'al. So we'll say if I give it over to my friend, then what? I, the gizbar, have committed Meilah. My friend has not committed Meilah. Take a look at Tosas. Nasal lechaveru hu ma'al perish gizbar lefi sheyatza lechulim mechinasna lechaveru shehotzi mirashuso. So we'll say, so we've touched on this concept of shlichus by Meilah. We're going to focus on it more today. So we'll say, halacha l'maisa, if I'm the gizbar, then I only affect Meilah when? At the time, ultimately, again, that I hand it over to my friend. At that point in time, then the item is, quote-unquote, successfully removed from the domain of hektish and given over into the domain of a regular person. Bina b'soch beisa. So I'll say, so presumably, we're still talking about the case of a gizbar. The Gemara is going to explain all of these cases, obviously. Bina b'soch beisa. If I'm the gizbar, and I went ahead and I took the stone or the piece of wood, and I built it into my home, I have not committed Meilah until when? Until I live under it, so to speak, enough to get one pruta of hana from it. So if I built it into my home, the act of building it into my home is not Meilah. It's only once I derive a pruta's worth of benefit from it that I've committed Meilah. Not all pruta, again, we'll define all of these cases. Not all pruta shall hektish harei zalamal. If I take a pruta of hektish, so I'll say, presumably we're still talking about the gizbar. So if the gizbar took a pruta of hektish, he has not committed Meilah. Because remember again, the hand of the gizbar is the hand of the Beis HaMikdash. Nasna lachavero. But if I gave the pruta to my friend, humal the chavero lamal. So I'll say in that case, the gizbar has committed Meilah, and his friend has not committed Meilah, right? The act of giving it to my friend effectively transfers it out of hektish domain. So I, the gizbar, have committed Meilah. My friend has not committed Meilah. Nasna la balan. What's the interesting case? What happens if I give it? Balan is a bathhouse attendant. So I'll say, so again, still the assumption is I am the gizbar. Remember again, here is the theme. The gizbar's hand is the hand of the Beis HaMikdash. Therefore, under normal circumstances, if I go over to the Beis HaMikdash and I lift up a pruta from the Beis HaMikdash, that act of lifting it up is in and of itself Meilah. Because remember, I acquire it when I lift it up. I'm removing it from Beis HaMikdash domain, putting it into my domain. If, however, I am the gizbar, my hand is the Beis HaMikdash's hand. And as such, for the gizbar to commit Meilah, there has to be another step through which he transfers ownership of this item to someone else outside of him. So if I give it to my friend, that could be Meilah. If I go ahead and, so in this case over here, I'm going ahead and giving the pruta to the bathhouse attendant. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to the bathhouse, costs money to use the bathhouse, I give him the pruta. So what's the halacha? Afa pi shelo rachatz ma'al. Even though I have not yet used, I have not yet used the bathhouse. Nevertheless, I've committed Meilah. Why? I'm sorry. Shu omer lo harei hamerchatz pasuach lefanecha harch ikanis urachatz. So we'll say, so essentially again, I've purchased the service. Good. I've purchased an entry ticket. Once I pay the money, the bathhouse attendant says, my bathhouse attendant says, excuse me, my bathhouse is your kingdom. Right? Enjoy. So the fact that now I have purchased this right in and of itself creates a Meilah scenario. Good. We'll say next part of the Mishnah. Achilasa v'achilas chavero. We'll say if I consume an item of hekdesh and my friend consumes part of that same hekdesh, so what's the halacha? Or haniyaso v'chanias chavero, or I benefit from hekdesh and my friend benefits from hekdesh. Achilaso v'hanias chavero, or I eat some of hekdesh and my friend benefits from hekdesh. We'll say, so this is all talking about shared liability. If you look at Tosas says over here, Achilasa v'achilas chavero perish, ochel b'chatzi pruta, v'hechil chavero b'chatzi pruta, haniasa v'anias chavero, kigon shesach atzmo b'shemesh al hekdesh b'chatzi pruta, v'sach chavero b'chatzi pruta, mitztarfim zeh im zeh, v'afil zman. We're supposed to say, so the point of this part of the Mishnah is that halacha l'maisa, different acts of consumption, right? Different acts of hana can combine. So if I eat the half a kizayis of hekdesh and my friend eats the other half a kizayis, I get a half a pruta of hana from an item of hekdesh, and my friend gets a half a pruta from the other same item, or for that matter, hanias chavero. Hanias v'anias chavero, achilaso v'hanias chavero. Or I have an item of hekdesh, I eat half of it, and my friend gets hana with the other half of it. Haniaso, I get benefit from a piece of hekdesh. Vafilas chavero, achilas chavero, and my friend consumes the other part of it. What's the halacha? Mitztarfim zeh im zeh, vafilu lizman beruba. I will say. We're going to see everything. So right now, the assumption is this is not Gizbar anymore, right? This is a different case over here. Remember, this doesn't have to be the Gizbar case, because remember again, the Gizbar case is only necessary in the first part of the Mishnah, where ultimately I needed a transfer of domain in order to affect Meilah. This presumably is talking about any individual over here. The klal of the Mishnah being that two acts of consumption, two acts of hana, an act of consumption, act of hana, have the ability to be mistarif, ultimately to create a unit of Meilah. Good. Says the Gemara, Ma'ishnahu u'ma'ishna chavero. So remember again, Tosas already defined for us what the nature of this case is, but the Gemara is a bit puzzled by it. The Gemara is wondering, looking at the first case of Mishnah, where a person took a stone or a beam belonging to the Beis Hamikdash. So the Mishnah said, I have not committed Meilah until I give it to my friend. Why? Why don't I commit Meilah the moment I go ahead and pick up the stone, the moment I pick up the beam? Because the moment I do that, ultimately I'm transferring the item from the domain of the Beis Hamikdash to my domain. Amar Shmuel, begizbar hamasuros lo askinon. Because Shmuel explains, we already knew this before, but we're saying it now. So Shmuel says, what's the case? The case over is we're dealing with the Gizbar of the Beis Hamikdash. The Gizbar, the temple treasurer, ultimately again is responsible for the items, for the possessions of the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, we'll say, amazingly enough, whereas by a regular person picking up an item of hekdesh with intention to acquire it, in and of itself creates a Meilah situation. By Gizbar, that is not the case. By Gizbar, his hand is the Beis Hamikdash's hand, and as such, again, when he lifts up an item, that does not affect Meilah. It is only when he lifts it up and transfers it to someone else, that's when Meilah is affected. The Gemara goes weiter. Remember again, the Mishnah said, if he takes the beam or he takes the piece of wood and he builds it into his home, he's only chayiv from Meilah when he derives at least a pruta of hana from living in the home. So interestingly enough, the act of building it into your house does not affect Meilah. It's only once you live under it and get a hana'a's worth of a pruta's worth of hana from living under it. Lamali achidar tachtel. I don't understand why doesn't he transgress Meilah until he lives under it for a pruta's worth of benefit? Kevan deshanye ma'al. We'll say, remember again, the assumption is if you're going ahead and you're building and you're putting a beam or you're putting a stone into your home, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to chisel it, do something with it. See, Rabbi said the act of changing an item, right? The act of changing something from Hekdesh also acquires it for Meilah purposes. See, even before I live in the home, even before I get any level of benefit, the act of somehow chiseling or changing the wood or the stone should be enough to affect Meilah. Amarav, Rav says, Kigon she'enicha al pi aruba. So I'll say, to which Rav says, what's the case? So literally translated, it's where I put the stone in an opening in the ceiling where there was a skylight. Which will say, there's another way of saying that halacha l'maisa, the stone didn't need to be chiseled. It was perfect. It fit right in. There was no shinui that was necessary. So again, einachinami, had I taken a stone from the Beis HaMikdash and done something to it and chiseled it or changed it, I would have acquired it for Meilah purposes with the act of shinui. The particular case in question over here is where the stone was a perfect fit without any modifications. In such a situation like that, I only transgress Meilah after I live in the home and derive a pruta's worth of benefits from the stone itself. Lema Meseyah, supposed to let's bring a brayso to support this. Lema Meseyah Rav, Dom Rav, because Rav says as follows. What's the case? Hamishtachavet lebayis asra. So we'll say, interestingly enough, if Rav says if you go ahead and you bow down to a house, halacha l'maisa, you've asred it. So we'll say if you worship a house as avodah zara, you've asred the house. Look at Tosas in just a moment. Lema Meseyeh le Rav. We'll say it's in the intermediate wide lines, about 5 lines in. So we'll say, interestingly enough, we'll say what the Gemara is bothered by is a different situation, which is we got finished saying last week that halacha l'maisa, once something is muchubar lekarka, it is no longer subject to Meilah. So we'll say, so here I have a different situation. If you're taking a stone and building into a home, is that not muchubar? And if it's muchubar, then it shouldn't be subject to Meilah. To which the Gemara says, this brayso supports the view of Rav. What does Rav say? Rav says that if you bow down to a home and you worship a home as avodah zara, then what's the halacha? It becomes avodah zara. The home is mechuber, right? The home is attached. So Rav apparently holds that something that was talush, ulubasof mechuber, something that was detached and then was attached, retains its status as detached. So in other words, halacha l'maisa, since the building materials were detached, were detached from the ground, therefore halacha l'maisa, they retain their detached identity even once they are built into a home. So Amar Rav Acha bar Ravika, Hana hanira le'einayim asra Torah. So we'll say Rav Acha bar Ravika could say, you know what? It could very well be that even if you hold talush ulubasof chibro, that something that was detached, subsequently attached, has the status of being attached, of being mechuber, this case of the stone of the Beis HaMikdash is different. Why? Because this is what's called hana'ah hanira le'inayim. If indeed we're dealing with the case where what? The stone was taken from the Beis HaMikdash, didn't have to be changed at all, was put right into an opening of the roof, that stone is visible. That stone is there. So it could very well, in order to make you chayiv from Meilah on the stone, it must be that you hold of talush ulubasof chibro havi talush. Something that was detached, subsequently attached, still has the status of something detached. To which the Gemara says, maybe not. Maybe you could hold that once something is attached to the ground, it's considered to be mechuber. That's it. So then why would I violate Meilah when I live under the roof that is comprised partly of this stone of Hekdesh? Why? Because it's nira le'inayim. It's visible. It's discernible. And because of that, it is still subject to Meilah. To which the Gemara is le'masayelei. So we'll say, let's bring a brayso to support this. Hadar b'bayis shal Hekdesh. If a person lives in a home of Hekdesh, Kevan shenena mimeno ma'al. once you go ahead and you benefit from it, ultimately again you have committed Meilah. Amarei Shlakish, like Shlakish doesn't know what's the case. Hasam b'shekdishu l'basof b'no. We'll say that case over there is where what? You were makdish the building materials. So you makdish the building materials, which were what? Which were detached. And then you subsequently go ahead and attach it. So we'll say, so what's the halacha? In that case, even when you build it into the ground, it does not go ahead and lose its hekdish designation. Aval b'no ul'basof hekdisho. We will say, if you built it and then you are makdish it, then what? What's the halacha? Lo ma'al. Why Rabbi say? Why no Meilah? Because it's mechuber. Because anything that is mechuber lekarka, ultimately again is not going to be subject to Meilah. So apparently the exception to that rule is if you are makdish the building materials and subsequently built those building materials into a home, that home will be subject to Meilah. If you build a home and subsequently are makdish it, that home will not be subject to Meilah. So we'll say this supports what we said before. The same idea. Even though the stone was detached, now it's attached. And apparently, again, we hold talush ulubasof chibro havi mechuber. Something was detached, subsequently attached, has the status of being something that is mechuber attached. The case of the stone is a bit different. Why? Because halacha ma'aseh it's nira le'einayim. So the Gemara says, you're right. I'll show you a further example of that. If you took building materials, were makdish them, then built them into a home, they are still subject to Meilah. Why? Because they are nira le'inayim. Masha'inkein, if you go ahead and you take a home that was chulin, then you're makdish it, that home will not be subject to Meilah. To which the Gemara says, let's analyze this. Aval b'no l'basof hekdisho ma'iloma. So that's he says, Gemara, my irya rahit v'tani hadar b'bayis shal ma'ara lomal. So here's what's interesting. Later on in that price, what does the Raisa say? That if a person lived in a home that was a cave, you have a cave home. So what's the halacha? No Meilah. Right? No Meilah in a cave home, Rabbi say. Why not? Because l'maisa again, it's karka. It's karka. To which the Gemara says, if that's the case, why do you have to bring in message? If you want to bring an example of a home that is not subject to Meilah, why do you have to bring up the cave home? So the Gemara says, Lema hadar bebayis shel avanim shebeno l'basof hekdisho la mal. Instead, make the two cases like this. If one lived in a home of stones that was first built and then was hukdash, it's not subject to Meilah. If it was first hukdash and then built, then it is subject to Meilah. Leave out the case of the cave home altogether. To which the Gemara says, Amri hapsikale halopsikale. So you see, here's the difference. The Bryce apparently was looking for an absolute case of a home that is never subject to Meilah. What's the case of a home that is never subject to Meilah? Your cave home. Good to know. Your cave home is never subject to Meilah. Why? Very simply, because it's a cave. And because it's a cave, Rabbi will say it was karka, it is karka, will always be karka. So Gemara was looking for an absolute case. Masha'in kain, a home that is made up of stones or of any other building material, those cases are not absolute. Those cases are contingent, they're dependent. Dependent on what? When did the hekdish designation take place? If the hekdish designation took place while the building materials were detached materials, then ultimately again the hekdish designation remains even once the home is built. If the home was built first and then the hekdish designation was made afterwards, then halacha l'maisa the hekdish designation does not devolve upon the home. Or I should say, the hekdish designation devolves upon the home, but halacha l'maisa, it is not subject to Meilah. Very important distinction. Hekdish designation takes place, it's just not subject to Meilah. So we'll say what comes out over here. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, we see number one, in order for a gizbar to affect Meilah, what has to happen? He has to transfer it out of his domain. That's halacha number one. Halacha number two is that when you go ahead and you take an item from hekdish and you change it in some way, ultimately again, so you've committed Meilah through the change. Halacha number three, talush ulubasof chibro havi mechuber. If you take something that is detached and subsequently attach it, it is considered to be mechuber lekarka. For Meilah purposes, this halacha takes on a little bit of a variation in that if the detached items are recognizable, then they still retain their Meilah designation as detached items. That's why if you take the stone that is recognizable and you build it into the roof, it is subject to Meilah. If you're makdish the building materials and then build a home, subject to Meilah. Even though, again, we hold Talush, Ulabasof, Chibro, Havi Mechuber, by Meilah there is like this little blip in that halacha, in that if the hegdish items are still recognizable, they will still be subject to Meilah. Shkach, we'll say, Hadjan Alach, Hanen, Mazel Tov. Hashliach. So we'll say, so remember again in this last Mishnah, we already began to allude to the concept of shlichus in Meilah. So specifically, interestingly enough, we saw in the case of the Gizbar, remember again, going back to the last Mishnah, in the case of the Gizbar, we saw that if a Gizbar takes an item from Hektish, I'm the Gizbar, I take a piece of wood from Hektish, and what happens? I give it to my friend then uses it. So what did the previous Mishnah say? Hu ma'al, chavero lo ma'al. I, the Gizbar, have committed Meilah, my friend has not committed Meilah. So we'll say, so continuing on that theme, the Mishnah says as follows. Hashliach she'asa shlichuso. This is really very interesting. If a shaliach carried out his agency, bal habayis ma'al. So we'll say, this is really quite fascinating. So if the shliach carried out his agency, then ultimately what? The balabayis has ma'al. So we'll say, so again, so just to understand what this means. If I go ahead and I give my shaliach an object, and I give him a shlichus, and the object happens to be hektish. The shliach did not know it was hektish. I give him the shlichus. He performs some type of task with the object. I, the mishaliach, the principal, I am chayiv Meilah. My shaliach is not. Now they're both saying, now why is this unique? Why is this unique? Because normally in halacha, what do we say? Ein shliach lidvar aveira. Right? There's no such thing as agency by the commission of sin, which means if I dispatch someone to do something and it turns out to be illegal, so the shaliach is chayiv for it. I am not chayiv for this. So remember again, Meilah is going to be a little bit different. Tosas points out over here, Hashliach she'asa shlichuso balabayis mal kedarmina al beidach perkin dialfinan chet mitruma. So we'll say we saw this already. The Gemara said this is based on Gzeir Shev of chet from truma. So we'll say so there's a concept ultimately again of shlichus by Meilah. I go ahead and I commission the agent to do something that is Meilah. We'll say, of course, again, to be clear, this is a case where the agent is unaware that what he is doing is illegal. He performs an act of Meilah. I, the Mishaleach, am responsible for that Meilah. On the other hand, Lo asa shlichuso, hashliach mo. But say, on the other hand, if what? If I dispatch the agent to do something, and the agent disobeys, he does not perform the terms of his agency, he does something else, then what? He, the shaliach, is responsible for the Meilah, not me. Which I will say makes sense, because what the Gemara is essentially saying is like this. In a regular case of Meilah, so the shaliach is an extension of me. But however, the Mishnah says he's only an extension of me if what? If he does what I say. If he chooses to go rogue, right? If he's a rogue shliach and he's doing his own thing, he's no longer an extension of me. He's doing his own thing, therefore he'll be chayiv. Kate said, I'll say, here we go. What's an example of this? Amar lo, tein basar la'archim. I say to my shaliach, give meat to our guests. Now the case over here is what? Where halacha l'maisa, the meat is kodesh, right? The meat is hektish. So I'm telling him to commit an act of Meilah, v'nosalahem kaved, and instead he doesn't give them meat, but rather he gives them liver. He gives them liver. In this case over here, the liver is also kodesh, right? It's also hektish. So in all of these cases, so what happens? What's the halacha? Or kaved v'nosalam basar, or I say to the shaliach, give the guest liver, and instead he gives them meat. So I'll say, so what's happened over here? The shaliach has disobeyed the details of his agency. So what's the halacha? Hashaliach mal. So I'll say in this case over here, it's the shliach who committed Meilah, not me, the mishaliach. Amar lo teilem chaticha. So we'll say, listen to this. Teilem chaticha. Furthermore, if I say to the shaliach, I say, listen, give the guests something to eat. Give them each one piece of meat. And what happens? V'hu omer telushtayim, and he says to the guests, you know what, guys? Each of you take 2 pieces of meat, and it gets better. V'heim not lu shalosh, and the guests each took 3 pieces of meat. So I say, watch this. Shkulam ma'alu. Every is a Meilah party, right? Everyone has committed Meilah. We'll say, why is everyone committed Meilah? So the Balabas has committed Meilah ultimately, again, because the Mishaleach obeyed him, right? The Mishaleach gave them each a piece of meat. The Shaliach has committed Meilah. Why? Why? Because he gave them a second piece of meat of his own volition. And the Archim have committed Meilah. Why? Because of their own volition, they took a third piece of meat. So everyone has committed Meilah in this particular scenario. Amud Beis. So let's say, here we go. Says the Gemara, Mantana dechom. So we'll say, so this is very interesting. Mantana de Mimlach, dechom milsa de Mimlach ale shaliach, tarte mili havin. So we'll say, literally translated, who is the Tana who holds that anything for which an agent would go back and consult the Mishaleach, the principal, are considered to be two distinct items. Now, what is this talking about? Take a look at the top Rashi. Rashi says, Mantana dechom milsa de Mimlach be shaliach tarte mili ninu hachi kamar mani mas nisin de mashma dechom milsa de tzarech l'shlicha leimluche alei v'lishal mi balabayis im yikachena b'makom ose shetzivu im lav. So I'll say, sometimes an agent sends a mishalech, not an agent, a principal sends an agent to do something, right? So he says, purchase item A, and the shaliach can't find item A. So what'll happen? He'll come back to the mishalech and he'll say, Mishalech, I couldn't find A, but what? I found B. I found a substitute. So we'll say, so what's interesting is as follows. So in this case, so what we're saying over here is like this. Any time that the shaliach would come back and ask the principal and tell the principal, I can't find A, but I would find B, A and B will be reckoned as two distinct items. They both say why? Because if B was not so dissimilar from A, then what would have happened? The shaliach would have just bought it, because he would have understood that is still within the confines of his agency. The fact that he has to come back to the mishalech and say, I couldn't find A, but should I find B, tells me that what? A and B are two distinct items. So Rashi says over here, Kigon shim sivo balabayis likach lo basar min ashok. So an example of this would be as follows. If the principal told the agent, go buy meat from the marketplace, v'lo matzah ela kaved, and the shaliach goes out and he can't find meat, but he found liver, sha'ach shav tzarech lachzor lo l'sholcho, im yikachenu im lav. So it says, what would have to happen in such a situation? The shaliach would have to go back, ultimately again, and tell the shaliach, listen, I couldn't find any meat, but I was able to find liver. Do you want me to buy that? So the Gemara says, "Da'afagav de kulam in basarhu, kevin de mimlach alei trei milininhu." So I'll say, since even though liver is also called meat, but obviously they're dissimilar enough that the agent would have to come back and ask. Kevin de mimlach alei trei milininhu. Since he has to ask about it, therefore what? They are considered to be two different items. Midiktania shaliach ma'ali mal dichademil senenu. So we'll say, going back to the Mishnah. So therefore we'll say, in this case of the Mishnah, halacha lemaisa, I tell my shaliach, give the archim meat. What does my shaliach do? He gives them what? He gives them liver. Now we'll say, so what does the Mishnah say? The shaliach has committed Meilah. See, here's what's interesting. Liver is in the meat family. Yet you see that it's dissimilar enough that what? That it's considered to be something separate and distinct, which tells you that what? That halacha l'maisa, liver is the type of item where if I sent my agent out to the marketplace to buy something and he couldn't find meat and he only found liver, he would come back and ask me first. So therefore, what is Mishnah teaching me? That any item that a shaliach would come back and ask before purchasing is considered to be a dissimilar item. So whose opinion is this? Rav Chisda to look Rabbi Akiva. So Rav Chisda says this is not like Rabbi Akiva. Because what does Rabbi Akiva say? This nan hanodra min hayerek. If somebody made a neder not to eat vegetables. Yerek. What's the halacha? Mutter bidiluin. He is permitted to eat gourds. Because apparently according to the Tanakama, gourds don't fall under the category of yerek. Rabbi Akiva oser. Rabbi Akiva ultimately says that it is aser. Why? What's Rabbi Akiva's logic? Rabbi Akiva's logic, I will say, is that if somebody were to dispatch his agent to go to the marketplace to buy vegetables and the yerek, right, and the I guess yerek really refers more specifically to some type of green vegetables, and the shliach was unable to find yerek, but he was able to find diluin, ultimately, again, he would purchase the diluin. Ultimately, again, so the Gemara says, so what do you see from here? That halach, so fine. So Abai Amar Afilu Tim Rabbi Akiva. So even Rabbi Akiva would agree over here. Why? Milo Baile Imluche. So even according to Rabbi Akiva, the only reason ultimately Rabbi Akiva says that if you make a neder not to eat yerek, that diluin is included, is because halacha l'maisa, diluin is still in the family. But even according to Rabbi Akiva, a shaliach would still come back and first ask permission to buy the diluin and wouldn't just do it on his own. And when ultimately, again, the Rabbanas that served for Rabbah, ultimately, again, they said Nachmani. So Nachmani, Rabbi say, of course, is Abaye is saying good. So apparently the Gemara is suggesting even Rabbi Akiva, who holds that something similar enough is included in the neder, would still agree that halacha l'maisa, this is something that the shliach would still go back to the mishaleach to clarify if he's permitted to buy it. So Mantan the Palak Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi say, who is it that argues on Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel the Sanya, Hanoja min habasar, Aser b'chol minei basar. So let's listen to this. The Brayso says if somebody makes a neder not to eat meat, he is aser in all types of meat. Va'aser berosh uberaglayim bekana bekaved ubeleiv. So we'll say he's prohibited to go to eat the head, to eat the legs, to eat the windpipe, to eat the liver, to eat the heart. Vaser b'basar ofos umuter basar dagim. He is prohibited to eat chicken, permitted to eat fish, dagim mechagavim, grasshoppers. Reb Shimon matir berosh beraglayim bekana bekaved ba'ofos b'dagim mechagavim. So we'll say, so Reb Shimon comes along and says you are permitted to eat the head, to eat the legs, to eat the windpipe, to eat the liver, to eat chicken, to eat fish, and to eat grasshoppers. So we'll say, what do you see from here? You see Rabbi Shimon Gamliel has a much narrower definition ultimately of meat. Right? Rabbi Akiva understands that included in meat is pretty much anything that a shaliach would buy if he can't find primary basar. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, no, meat mamish refers just to meat. It doesn't refer to these ancillary parts of the animal, nor does it refer to chicken, to fish, or to grasshoppers. Omer karvayim lav basrain. Rabbi says kishkas, right? Kishkas, the intestines, is not meat. Va'ochleim lav bar inish. And anyone who eats the kishkas, anyone who eats the intestines, is not really a human being. Right? So Rashi points out over here, what that means is, if you have the opportunity to eat regular meat, and instead you purchase kishka, so there's something wrong with you, right? There's something wrong. So we'll also have to stop over here for today. We'll pick up with the Tanakama Mir Hashem tomorrow. Shkoyach.